Hi guys, lovely to see you again. Now this is the second session we're doing on Penny and I and our ride that we did through Africa. So remember last week was an introduction, just telling you guys about us. Penny and I, we were really good friends at the time, and then we decided to get married because we had this plan to ride through Africa together. First on bicycles, but that's another story. And it wasn't on a bike like this one, a nice new fancy bike. It was an old bike, and we bought 3 broken down bikes, and we took the best bits and built one bike that could get us all the way to London. So we were really good friends, Penny and I, which was fantastic, and then we decided to get married and do this trip together. And what I wanted to do then, in that talk last week, was link it to what God is doing in our lives, that He's really, really involved, and He loves and He cares for us. And this ride that Penny and I had to do obviously required lots of planning. And I think I mentioned it took us about 3 years to save and to get the right bits of paperwork in order and to get the right shocks, which we had made for us in America and shipped out. And all those sort of plans, it really took us time to get our planning right. And then we talked about Ephesians 1, chapter 1, verse 4, where we read that He, God, chose us before the creation of the world to be in Himself, to be holy and blameless in His sight. And what's so exciting about that, that if God has chosen us in Himself, if He has planned our lives way ahead of time, before the creation of the world, it means He's intimately involved in our lives in every detail. So we know, Penny and I knew that God was with us on that ride. And I want you to know through these talks that God is with you in this adventure. So what we're going to talk today about is the word adventure. If I was to come to your house and say, look guys, you've got half an hour, I want you to pack your bags, and then we're going to go on an adventure together. So imagine I came on a bike or in an old Land Rover. How many of you would say yay? And how many of you would say no way, we're not going? And there are very good reasons to say yay, and there are obviously very good reasons to say no way. So a story I thought I'd share with you is when Penny and I were in northern Kenya. So we had been on our ride for a good couple of months. It was the early part of the year, so it was late January, early February. It was still very, very hot. We were in northern Kenya, and you can look up after this, look up a town called Marsabit, which has a massive ancient volcanic crater on it, and inside is a game reserve. It's the most amazing little town, tiny, tiny little village, almost a village. And it's about 600 kilometers short of the Ethiopian border, the southern Ethiopian border. So we were in Marsabit, and we had to ride with a military convoy because those 600 kilometers through the Kaisut Desert, where trucks travel from Ethiopia into Kenya, bringing people and goods and food, they had been attacked by bands of bandits, groups of bandits with guns, machine guns, and they would attack these big trucks full of people and steal all their money and all their goods, all their food. So what Penny and I had to do early in the morning was meet a military convoy. So a convoy is when a whole lot of trucks or cars travel together for safety. That's generally what the term convoy is. And what the military had decided was they would go in front of the convoy and behind the convoy, and on top of the trucks were big machine guns and soldiers with guns. So Penny and I were on the bike. So the commander of the convoy said, okay, you guys are on the motorbike. Why don't you ride ahead of the convoy so that the dust doesn't come through into your helmets and you inhale and you're breathing all the dust from the trucks. You guys go ahead. So Penny and I rode on ahead, and what had happened, we didn't realize, but we were 250 kilometers into this desert, the Kaisut Desert, and the ground was hard and it had really sharp lava rocks. So Penny and I weren't carrying much weight, we didn't have much water, and we suddenly came to a little hut in the middle of nowhere, and there were 2 armed guards with their machine guns, and they were guarding the road from people just going up and down without being in the military convoy. And what had happened was Penny and I had run out of water. We were thirsty, and so we asked these soldiers if they had anything for us to drink, and they had camel's milk. That's all they had, and it was disgusting. It was stinky. So anyway, Penny and I had some camel's milk. It was awful. It was hot. We were tired. We were very thirsty, and And then Penny got really sick and she was bilious. She was vomiting while we were trying to get to the Ethiopian border. So we had a long, really hard ride. So there are parts of adventure that aren't fun. And there are parts of this life that aren't going to be fun. And it might be for you guys right now, might not be fun because you might be at home with this lockdown because of the virus, and you see how quickly things can change. So this adventure we're on together called life is really important if we know God and if we're willing to learn about God. And if you don't know about God, I want to encourage you to talk to your mom and dad about God and just ask them what they think. And they might not be churchgoers, but it's really important that we look at the Bible because that tells us all about God. And what's encouraging is He has planned our adventure beforehand. Ephesians chapter 1 verse 4, for He chose us in Him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in His sight. Remember that scripture, that He has planned out our lives. It's not just destiny. Nothing's just going to happen by chance. It doesn't mean that you can't or you shouldn't get up and brush your teeth and make your bed and get going and have some direction. But He has chosen to bring you into this life, to give you this life. And remember last week we spoke about creation being so beautiful that He's made it for us. He loves us so much. And He's also made us clever enough to make things like motorbikes and bicycles and climbing ropes and carabiners, all the things you use to enjoy His creation. So isn't it important, I think, and I want to encourage you too, that God is a loving, generous, gracious God, and He wants you to look to Him for every part of this exciting adventure that we're on together.